Let's bring in Lisa Rubin, MSNBC legal correspondent. Lisa will be in the courtroom after jury selection when arguments begin. And with me here in the studio is Kate Christobeck, former Bronx, New York assistant district attorney, now New York Times reporter covering the civil and criminal cases against Trump. Kate is, by the way, one of 3 authors breaking down profiles of the jurors that each side will be looking for. And we've got a lot of questions to pose to Kate on that. But Lisa, you first, because more than 6,000 juror summonses went out for this week. 500 potential jurors are expected in court tomorrow. How will their day start? I mean, will they know which case they're being considered for?
I missed part of your question, Alex, but in terms of which case they're being considered for, first of all, those 6,000 jurors are going to be allocated to various courthouses in the New York court system. There are more than usual who have been asked to come in part because of tomorrow's opening trial with Donald Trump. But the ones who are asked to come to 100 Center Street, those are the ones that could possibly be part of this Trump jury tomorrow.
Okay, so those that come to the court on Center Street, they may have a good inkling of what they're going to be going through. Here's the question to you, Kate. What is the process they go through? And given your experience covering trials and understanding how this breaks down, is there something different about it?
It's such a historic day. Tomorrow, I think we've never experienced anything like this, criminal prosecution of a former United States president. But the process is going to be very similar to any other kind of jury service. The jurors will come to the courthouse, as Lisa said. They will come into the courtroom. They will be greeted by Justice Juan Merchan, who will briefly tell them about the case. And that happens in all criminal cases. But a few feet away from them will be the former president of the United States. So I think at that point, that's when things will be different than what we typically see in a criminal trial.
And also the questions that they're going to be asked. Talk about that, the kinds of questions that are not typically being asked of the average juror.
Exactly. The first few questions will be what normal jurors are asked, biographical questions. They'll be asked to briefly describe themselves, their families, their occupations. But gradually the questions will become more and more pointed about former President Donald Trump. They will ask try to be looking for any biases or sympathies, both for and against the former president. So the questions will get into if they volunteered for him in the past, if they've attended one of his rallies, if they've been on his listservs. But they're also trying to find if Mr. Trump's lawyers will also be trying to determine if these jurors have done anything anti-Donald Trump in the past. So that is certainly not something we see on traditional jury service, but we'll certainly get into some of those bias and sympathies.
I mean, even things like which cable news they watch. I mean, that's how granular it's going to get?
Exactly. It's going to get into those questions, which news they consume, what podcasts they listen to, even what books they read, if it's a book by former President Donald Trump or Michael Cohen, who is expected to be one of the key witnesses in this trial.
There's going to be a lot of questions. It's going to take a lot of time.
Exactly. The jury questionnaire is 42 questions, and many of them have several subparts. And every juror will be asked the same questions. We will be listening to kind of the same answers. And a lot of them are yes and no questions. So the lawyers are going to have to be on the lookout for these hidden biases and sympathies that people might not be outright admitting.
So, Lisa, the Trump team is taking issue with this written statement. It is from the judge. Contrary to defense counsel's arguments, the purpose of jury selection is not to determine whether a prospective juror likes or does not like one of the parties. Why is this an issue?
Well, because Judge Merchan believes that, particularly given who this defendant is, Alex, everybody has an opinion about former President Trump. The question really, to his mind, is can those jurors be fair? Can they set aside any biases that they have walking into the courtroom? Or is their intensity of feeling about former President Trump, either for him or against him, so intense that they couldn't possibly put that aside and be a fair juror? So that's why he is saying to them, it's not really a question of whether they like or dislike him. It's a question of whether they can be fair. The Trump folks, for their part, say, actually, no. To the extent that somebody has a bias and dislikes him walking into the courtroom, that should be enough to disqualify that person for cause. And by excluding even that baseline question from the jury questionnaire, you are depriving Donald Trump of the fair trial to which he is entitled under the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution. Look for that to potentially become an issue before we even bring a single juror into the room tomorrow.
It sounds like you are going to agree with what Kate wrote, which was, Lisa, that it's not so much about jury selection as it's about jury deselection.
Well, that's always the case, Alex. In New York, with the kind of crime that we're looking at here with respect to Donald Trump, each side gets what are called 10 peremptory challenges. That means they can get rid of a particular juror for whatever reason, and they don't have to state it. But they also get what are called unlimited challenges for cause. And that's a challenge to a prospective juror on the basis that they have a bias that would interfere with their ability to cast a full and impartial judgment as a member of the jury. So tomorrow, what can we expect? We should look to Donald Trump's team to try and strike many jurors for cause. Why? One, because it's unlimited, and two, because they have an outstanding motion saying essentially Donald Trump can't get a fair trial in the county of Manhattan, that this case should have been postponed indefinitely or had its venue changed. And it's that venue change issue that they're still pursuing. But their belief is that because everybody here in Manhattan has an opinion about Donald Trump and the majority of Manhattan residents, according to a survey they commissioned, don't like the guy, they're going to want to explore that and try and strike as many of the jurors who say they have a negative opinion about Donald Trump in one way or another for cause.
So Lisa's point about dismissals, then you write those that Trump and his team will want would include younger black men and white working class men, particularly public employees like police officers, firefighters, and sanitation workers. What's the strategy behind that?
I think that they're looking for people that, that would be likely to be sympathetic to former President Donald Trump. It's through New York Times reporting, that's how we determine some of those preferences. And I think that must be through internal studies, polling about who may be more sympathetic. I think they're also looking for people who have had troubles of their own with the criminal justice system, legal troubles of their own. I mean, certainly no one can relate to what the former president is about to experience. But people do come into jury service having a less than positive experience with the criminal justice system, either their own experience or that of a family member. And I think they're going to be looking for folks like that as well.
So, Lisa, Trump says that he will absolutely testify in his own defense. Here is what his former lawyer and fixer said about that.
The likelihood of Donald Trump being on the stand is equal to the likelihood of me waking up tomorrow 7'6" and playing center for the New York Knicks.
So beyond the chuckle there, his lawyers today are expressing confidence that if he does take the stand, considering what happened, though, in the civil trial, can Judge Merchan manage Trump on the stand, Lisa? Can he even manage Trump's social media attacks that are ongoing even today?
Well, let's start with the social media attacks, because I think at least one of them that I've seen from last evening questionably violates the gag order. I think you could take, both sides could have an interpretation about whether it does cross that line, but this one is as close to the line as I've seen. And again, when we're talking about tomorrow morning, before a prospective juror even walks in the door, I think it's possible that we could see a motion from the district attorney's office about those social media posts saying that they are, in fact, violative of the gag order and that former President Trump should be sanctioned as a result of that. When it comes to his behavior on the stand, Alex, we've had multiple experiences with him on the stand, not only in Judge Merchan's courtroom, where he got an opportunity to kind of ramble, but also in the second E. Jean Carroll trial, where he was only allowed to be asked 3 questions, and he tried to push it even beyond that. I think Judge Merchan here will have very limited tolerance for that. If Donald Trump is smart, he will listen to his very good lawyers in this case, who have to be extraordinarily nervous about their client's public assertion that he is absolutely going to testify. It is not in his interest to testify here, particularly given some of the evidence, including his own admissions via tweet, that in fact he did repay Michael Cohen for paying Stormy Daniels, and he understood that's what he was doing.
Extraordinary. Lisa Rubin, Kate Christobeck, thank you both so much.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.